Hey gang.
Howdy.
That's right. We're back again. Am I wearing the same shirt that I wore in the last podcast?
No, certainly not.
Nope, absolutely not. And nor is he.
No.
New day, new clothes. New recording session.
Because we never record things more than one thing at a time.
Nope.
Never happens.
No siree, Bob.
However, we need to clear something up real quick.
Okay.
We don't know what podcast episode this is.
No.
It might be 12.
Or 13.
It might be 13. But being the brain trusts that we are,
Yeah.
we seem to have recorded a podcast and possibly completely forgotten about it. And it's sitting out there waiting to be edited. So just bear with us on the whole numbering thing. You get past 5 and...
Whatever it says in the title, that's what episode it is.
Exactly.
But right now, we have not yet decided that. So...
Right. So just beware.
If we say the wrong number...
And those of you who have been around us for any length of time know that this is not going to come as a surprise to you, so, you know.
No,
anyway.
Not at all. What's new?
Well, before we get too far into this, I want to thank another Patreon patron.
Absolutely.
Stefan.
Stefan.
And Stefan, I hope it's not Stefan. We think it's Stefan. Stefan is from Germany. And we just wanted to thank him for being a supporter on Patreon. It makes a big difference to us being able to do the things that we do.
Indeed.
So if you would like to become a Patreon patron as well, please take a look at the description of this particular video. If you're listening to this as a podcast, you can go to our website, theoldwarlock.com, and have a look there, and it'll have information about how to become a Patreon subscriber.
Yeah.
But, what?
Thank you, Stefan. We appreciate you.
Stefan. I'm going to say it's Stefan, but you can correct us if we're wrong.
You sure
can.
can.
We'll correct it on the air.
And thank you to everyone else who has supported our Patreon.
Yes.
We appreciate all of you.
It's more successful than we thought it was.
It is, yeah.
So it's really cool.
It's going to help us a lot. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. No, sirree, Bob. We are here.
Our last podcast.
Yeah.
We spent it talking about Fantasy World magazine. Number 2, edition 2.
Yes.
And so this time I think we're going to be a little bit more freeform.
Yeah. We're just going to, go with the flow, go where the music takes us.
Because we have had people say that they like our directionless banter, although one person mentioned it as being pointless banter and then quickly corrected themselves in a subsequent message. But I thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
I love your pointless banter. I mean directionless banter.
Whoops-a-daisies.
Yeah, Freudian slip there. But.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. Exciting news? Anything?
Well, the Gamma World campaign continues apace.
It does. We had an absolutely rip-snorting good time playing Gamma World this past Sunday evening.
And well, let's go into that just a little bit.
Okay.
This is our second foray into Gamma World with these characters.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, no one has died yet.
Some of us
Although
came pretty
you were
darn
close in this last game.
I wasn't. I was fine. But I was also unconscious on the ground for a good chunk of the fighting.
One of his mutations is that if he gets too stressed, go figure.
Yeah.
In a fantasy role-playing or a science fiction role-playing game.
Yeah.
If he gets too stressed, there's a certain % chance that he will just go into a fit and not be able to contribute to anything. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
During the Scorpion attack.
Yeah.
But no, the game went well. Go ahead.
It went very well. I thought that all of it, he's DMing.
GWMing.
GWM Gamma World-ing for us. And so me and 1, 2, 3, 4 other people are making their way through this essentially big spaceport that's been buried underneath the sand, and we're just kind of like scavengers.
And they're clueless. I mean, this is they run around. They're slightly above tribal.
Yeah, we're like no technology, no really nothing. So we're just kind of making our way through, trying to find valuable stuff. We had quite a few close calls last time. We had a plant that was throwing grenades at us. That was fun.
Well, they were explosive seed pods. They were mutated explosive seed pods, which was great.
It was throwing grenades at us the whole time. It was really annoying.
It was fun.
And then we fought 2 giant scorpions, and one somehow. We pulled that out.
I think that was from Calvin using the stun pistol that you found.
No, that wasn't Calvin. That was Billy.
Billy actually managed to hit something?
Yeah, well, yeah, he was rolling really well.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
Billy shot both of them. And because Calvin beat the grenade plant.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true. He used his mutation that will add points of damage to anything within radius.
Yeah, there's like a death aura that surrounds him when he wants there to be. So he just kind of stood close enough to the plant and survived the grenade barrage for long enough.
They weren't grenades, they were explosive seed pods.
Potato.
Grenades, seed pods. No.
The exploding seeds. But he slowly drained the plant and then it died. Then we had found like a stun gun, a phaser on stun basically, earlier on that had what, 7 charges?
7 total charges in it, so it could be shot 7 times. And that's one of the cool things about this game. Mm-hmm. It's like you got 3 shots with these things, you better make them count.
Yeah, use them to the best of your ability. And so we used up 6, but we did stun both of the giant scorpions and then basically beat them to death. And made sure they were dead.
You know, the cool thing to me about that entire evening, though, was that you only explored, I would say, in terms of linear feet of the place that you were exploring, 300 linear feet.
Yeah.
400 linear feet at the most, 3 rooms, and it took all evening to do it, but that was because everybody was playing so exceptionally well.
Yeah.
This place is, this is Gamma World. Everything is mutated. Anything can kill you, and you guys played accordingly. And
we were
that's the reason you survived.
Very slow, very methodical, very careful with all of our decisions. We were checking behind us all the time. It didn't do us much good at some points, and we ended up getting lucky in part. That's why we survived. But at the same time, there was a lot of slow and steady wins the race. We know that we can't beat everything by traditional means of just duking it out, so we kind of had to figure out alternative ways to make our way through some of these situations.
But I'm curious though, you guys did find the power plant.
We did, to
turn the power back on for the spaceport, and then there was a debate there for 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Do we turn this power back on because there are inactive robots, there are inactive security systems right now?
Yep.
If you turn them on, are they going to be a problem?
Are we going to be fighting a bunch of androids next? Yeah. So.
But the cool thing about this as well for me, and this comes straight out of Daybreak 2250 AD, a book by Andrew Norton that I read way back in the day.
Yeah.
You guys are rich in pencils and paper.
Yeah.
That's where that's the treasure of this. It's not really in the laser rifles. It's in. Well, I found a bunch of unrusted screws, and that's kind of the wealth.
That's where our functional wealth for right now is.
Right.
I will say that much. If we figure out a way, and that's the tough part. I mean, that was one of the big debates as we were kind of closing things out. Is there are like computers down there? There's robots. There's all kinds of different things that could hypothetically be sold, but there's only 5 of us, and we've got spears and clubs. So
how do you defend it?
Yeah, how do we keep people from finding out where it is? How do we? Yeah, all that stuff is going to have to be a big.
That's the future.
That's going to be tough.
The future of the game. So it's going to be fun.
But it was fun because the first time we played it, it kind of seemed like there wasn't a whole lot of like future with these characters going a long way and doing a lot of stuff. But now that we've kept going, we're all on the mindset of we want to keep playing this campaign and want to kind of see where this ends up. We're attached to our characters now. We weren't the first time.
Right.
I can say that some members of the party, I think, were actively trying to get their characters killed the first time we were playing so that they could re-roll, but it didn't happen. They're still alive, and we all kind of like them now. Yeah. So we're using them to the best of our ability.
It's really good.
Yeah.
So that's, in terms of play, that's where we are. Right now it's Gamma World.
That is what we've been doing, and it's not, it's a very different experience from traditional Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
We're not going into it with the same kind of mindset of how we're going to play the game, how we're going to play the characters, or what our expectations are, at least right now.
Yeah, I think that the thing is you guys are just wandering in the dark.
Yeah.
In terms of what the world is, how it functions, you're not there yet. But you're starting to understand how this little tiny section of that world is functioning, i.e. the starport, buried in the sand. And that, I think, is where you've started to really get things together and move forward.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, then there's the huge world outside of the starport that you're going to have to deal with.
It's going to be a little bit, the world's a little bit bigger than I think it is in D&D when most of the time we play.
Yeah. Anyway, it was fun.
Yeah, it was. What else is going on? We are continuing watching The Last of Us.
Yes.
Still cruising on through that. For those of you who didn't watch our video talking about our critiques of The Last of Us from a role-playing gamer's perspective, which is a lot of you who didn't watch that video.
Although a lot of people, I think, have not watched the show.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, not everybody has an HBO Max subscription.
That's true. But if you want to watch it, go check that out. We liked making it, if nothing else.
Yeah, it was fun for us.
We had fun throwing it together.
Yeah. That's half of what we're doing here.
But yeah, we did watch. We've been watching that quite a bit, and that's our biggest.
It's the go-to.
It's the go-to weekly thing that we're excited about and that we talk about. Yeah, they had a heck of a depiction of Jackson Hole, Wyoming,
which we are very familiar with.
We are
for reasons we won't get into, but yeah, it was just kind of funny to go. That's how they see Jackson.
That's their depiction of Jackson.
Okay.
You've never been there.
Yeah, you guys didn't even bother to go by.
Yeah.
Well, and in the last one, they were. Don't get me wrong. I'm really enjoying the show, but when they started talking about the geography of Wyoming, again, it was very much. Could you not have called the Wyoming Tourism Office and said, "Okay, if I tell people we're going to do this, followed by this, followed by this, does that make any sense to the people who live in that region?" No, as a matter of fact, it doesn't.
No, but I respected the effort. They really did try.
They knew that there was an interstate.
They did. And it was the right one too.
But it was also
actually
a good 3 days travel away by foot. So
yeah. But what did,
more than that, actually.
What did crack me up was there's a university in the last episode we watched, and they called it University of Eastern Colorado. Yeah. And their symbol was the
ram, wasn't it?
Well, it wasn't a ram. It was like a goat or something.
I can't remember what it was.
And then I googled it. I'm like, is there a University of Eastern Colorado that I just haven't heard of? And it's just a ripoff of Colorado State University.
Right.
But that cracked me up.
Yeah, but again, it was just one of those. You guys could have made a couple phone calls and sorted all this out.
Yeah, really. I mean, yeah,
been okay, but it doesn't detract from the show.
It's just funny for people who are familiar with the area they're talking about.
Well, but again, at the same time, the Wyoming Film Office, to my knowledge, does not really do a lot to attract people to film in state.
No.
So the filmmakers have to be forgiven if they film this in Canada.
Yeah.
Because they've been invited in country and given tax incentives to do so.
Yeah. But like if any of you have ever seen Wind River, that movie that has Jeremy Renner,
which is set in Wyoming, which great show.
It's an incredible
really
movie.
Good.
Very violent and upsetting, but it's a still very good movie. Not a moment of it.
Well, and even the really popular TV show Longmire.
Longmire I think that was shot in Utah, wasn't it?
No, I think it's shot in southern Colorado. But again, it was set in Wyoming.
Yeah.
I think Wyoming steps up and says, "Hey, we would love to have you actually film that here." Nah,
nothing. Same thing with Yellowstone. I think that's shot in. That's supposed to be mostly in Montana.
Yeah,
but I think there's some forays into Wyoming. None. Not shot here.
Anyway, we digress.
We do, but you've got some new shows and things set in Colorado and Wyoming and Montana if you want to go watch those.
There you go.
Our movie recommendations for the day.
I wanted to move into something that I purchased the other day.
Feel free.
How much time have we already killed talking basically about nothing?
We're 15 minutes deep at this point, so we've got a good 15 minutes before we swap over to
the Patreon side.
Yeah.
Well, I went to a gaming store yesterday. It was 2 days ago. Sorry, and picked up a copy of something that I have seen on Kickstarter. That I got into it late. I didn't actually get the chance to be a part of the Kickstarter campaign. I wish I had, but it was over and done by the time I stumbled onto it. But it's called Into the Wyrd and Wild. I'm holding up the book right now for people who are looking at this on video.
It looks good.
For those of you who are just listening to the podcast, it's Into the Wyrd, W-Y-R-D, and Wild, W-I-L-D, by Charles Ferguson Avery. I have fallen in love with this book.
Have you?
It is not that way, I swear. It's again, as I mentioned in the previous podcast, I'm looking for a new co-host. So
you can't have one. I'm a third share owner.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
Anyway, this Into the Wyrd and Wild is we're going to be doing a video about it because I like it so much, and it's really just a set of rules, and this is system agnostic. That's the reason I bought it. Mm-hmm. But you can tell when you read it that it was really kind of intended for OSR, for the old school Renaissance crowd, but it gives some basic rule sets, really simple rules for making a journey into what is ostensibly a not a haunted forest, but it's more of a
think Appalachia folklore.
Filled forest
is kind of the feeling I got. Like I know you're not supposed to say the word because that summons them, but Wendigos, like that kind of thing.
Those kinds of creatures.
Yeah.
But think D&D with that kind of a concept and approach,
with that theming,
and dropped into this wild area, this wild forest that that operates under rules all its own.
Yeah.
But it's he's come up with this Charles Ferguson Avery has come up with really simple processes. We'll be getting more into detail about how you could integrate this into your campaign in the future in another video. But I wanted to talk about, just to give you a feel for some of this, I wanted to talk about a couple of the monsters that are included along with these rules. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in this, and
it's a big book,
and it's not very expensive. I highly recommend getting it if you get the opportunity. But one of the things I loved is this is a monster called the Alapepper. The Alaper. Sorry.
Good try.
Okay. Moving on. The Alaper is basically it's a snake. It's almost like a rattlesnake. And I'm going to read a fair bit of this. It lists, under this listing for this monster, good English, Jim. Under this entry.
This is the second podcast we've recorded in a row.
I'm kind of tired. Armor class as leather. Hit dice, 1 hit dice. Hit points, 5. Move standard. Then for damage, it does a bite, 1d4 plus disease. So we'll get on to the description. The sound of beads striking one another is in a rising rattle is the first time. That's the way that you first know that this creature is around. Basically, rattlesnake. A fat reptilian coil, the color of a bruise, laced with white double helix pattern running down its back. It sits with a wide-fanged mouth agape. The insides of his mouth are the color of warm pus. It reeks like a military hospital or the sickbed of someone dying. The foul stench of illness surrounds this horrid little thing. And again, it's not a very strong monster, 5 hit points. But a venom snake's greatest weapon tends to be the lethal chemicals it stores in its glands. A dangerous injection that renders prey or assailant incapacitated. However, the Alaper has crafted a different way of subduing opponents. Inside its specialized sacs fester a virtual petri dish of disease and malady.
Good word. Malady.
I didn't come up with it, but it is a great word.
No, but I am a fan.
This lethal concoction simmers with nearly every recorded pathogen, as well as some specifically found only in the Alaper. A single bite from an Alaper risks contracting anything from measles to scarlet fever, while a second bite may contain an entirely different disease. The Alaper hunts in the cool of the night, seeking prey with an elaborate heat-detecting sense. It may not kill in the first bite. This it understands. But by infecting its prey, it weakens it with disease while also making it an unwitting pathological vector. And this is where it starts getting really interesting for me. As the disease spreads, the Alaper finds easy meals amongst the newly affected. So this whole biological construct of this Alaper, it doesn't just infect one thing.
Yeah.
It infects one thing, hoping that many other things get infected, so it has an easy set of meals going forward. Entire ecosystems or populaces have been decimated due to a single Alaper bite. Love the idea of this.
Yeah, very dark, but I like it.
Then it has a list of random diseases that you can go and do with this if you so desire. There's another great thing in here called the Arcanis Arachne, which are spell-weaving spiders.
Spider. I don't like spiders.
But this, again, great things.
No, yeah, very creative.
They can create first through third level spells without even knowing it. They're not consciously doing it. It just happens for them. Really a cool monster. But there are 50 of these these creatures.
Yeah, and I mean, all of them are... I haven't looked through this as extensively as you have, but the ones that I have seen, none of them are like any kind of creature that really, for the most part, I've seen in any of the manuals or anything like that. This is something that's completely new, completely original, which is kind of tough to do with Dungeons & Dragons, which is a game that's kind of had everything done to death at some point or another. It's tough to come up with new things.
I agree, and this is what he's done. Just some. That's why why I really like this was because these things this is a very creative man.
Yeah.
And he's just come up with a new angle or new perspective for developing a lot of these creatures.
Yeah.
He comes up with a whole series. I love dryads. I've always loved dryads in my campaign. I think that I've developed a whole subculture of dryads.
He uses them a lot, and there's some really funny results that come out
some
of it.
Really good stuff. But he has come up with, I should be using his name, Charles Ferguson Avery, has come up with the Dryadi, which are a whole series of different dryads that operate in different ways. And so they call these different Dryadi groups groves, and each grove has different characteristics. So there's a whole series of different types of dryads that you could end up running into, which again is great.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find one of at the very back here. So it goes through all of these monsters. Again, we'll be talking about this again in the future. I want to talk about one more thing here about factions. That are
this is the really cool aspect of this whole thing. Where the creativity really starts to run wild.
Yeah, I love this. There is the first one off the bat is the Court of Broken Branches. So the wilds are home to many a broken thing. Children abandoned by their parents, beasts left for dead by their pack, deserters, minds shattered by the horrors of war, and common folk exiled perhaps simply for being different. In the pits of their despair, they cry out for solace, begging and praying for the faintest glimmer of belonging and hope.
Just like me.
Oh, brother. Their prayers go unanswered by all, save for one, the Lady of Broken Branches. So the Lady of Broken Branches has existed since before the dawn of civilization. What happens is, I'll try and summarize this. The Lady of Broken Branches in the Wyrd and the Wild, she goes and she saves these lost or forgotten or outcast creatures. For those of you who are just listening, he's pointing to himself.
Yeah. It's true.
There's a reason for him being an outcast, but we won't go into it. But was that out loud? I'm sorry. God,
he's so funny.
I gotta keep that
He
to
forgets
myself.
that I'm 50% him.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
So.
Anyway, the Lady of Broken Branches, she goes and she brings these people and she cares for them and she fixes them, she stitches them up, and there's all kinds of there's an interesting description about how she does that and the magic that she uses. But she's not 100% benevolent. But she's not 100% benevolent or good. Let's just go with good.
Omnibenevolent, one could say.
One could say. Anyway, but what she does is she has this huge number she's been collecting these beings since, forever. And they're totally loyal to her because she has given them a purpose and a place to be. And she is therefore an extremely powerful being in this weird and wild forest that she lives in, because she can call these people who are totally loyal to her, and she can send them off to destroy towns or cities if she considers those things to be a threat to her existence and the existence of her followers.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more detail in it about that. I'm not doing it justice, but these are the kinds of things in here that I just love about this book.
Also, I want to point out the art in here, Charles.
Nice stuff.
I don't know if you drew this or if you
I read about it. He had a number of different people help him with this, but it's
because
great.
The people who drew some of these images, like all of these images, are incredible. Some of this stuff it's
old school. It's very old school stuff.
Some of it's a little bit comic booky in a way, but like kind of the darker side of comic books. But it's very fitting for the feel of what he's made here.
Very much so.
It all fits in great, and it makes the whole book entertaining, and it makes it flow very easily.
Yeah. So anyway, this is something that I just wanted to talk about briefly because I bought it, like I said, 2 days ago, and I have just started to love this.
Oh, I like this.
This creation. I'm going to talk about one more and then we're done. This is the Feral Knight. I'm going back to the monsters and away from the different factions. This is the Feral Knight Armor class as plate and shield if wielding one. 8 hit dice, 45 hit points. Damage as per weapon. I just want to read the description of this. These were once resplendent knights, bodies tempered and minds gone rabid, and they serve as unwitting sentinels in the wilds. Because there have been many attempts to destroy the wilds through martial force, kingdoms raising mighty soldiers, heroes rising to become mighty warriors, magi crafting magical armaments, all to slaughter the terrors that plague the fringes of civilization. The wilds are seen as being dangerous and deadly to civilization. The wilds find all of these armies lacking, however, and so in the darkened shadows between the trees, it splinters their minds and makes them crawl like beasts. So what essentially this is these feral knights are knights that have been possessed by the wild, and they now have been turned to serve as sentinels against anybody who tries to enter the wilds and inflict their will upon them.
Which is darn cool.
Oh, yeah, it's, let's see. The feral knights do not commit violence against the wilds itself, any such cases only to feed, as they seem to have a taste for raw flesh. But they are in tune with their surroundings, careful to avoid stepping on budding saplings, and oblivious to the creatures that writhe and nest in their armor. Surrounded by nature, they can easily be mistaken for a large suit of rusted, overgrown armor if they lay still. Adventurers who succumb to this mistake find themselves in very mortal danger. Again, I just love what I've read so far in this book, and it was extremely popular on Kickstarter, and I can easily see why.
Oh yeah, no, it's like, I don't know, like, and we always talk about the importance of creativity and how important having creative things is to us on the channel, and this is one of the biggest and most impressive ways I've seen creativity put into Dungeons and not Dungeons and Dragons technically, but you know what I mean, into Dungeons and Dragons.
Fantasy role-playing games.
Yeah, in a very long time, especially in the modern era, when most of the supplements that are created are put out by, you know, Wizards of the Coast and things like that. So there's not a lot of, at least to this level, there aren't huge amounts of things that are produced this professionally, with this good of art, with this, you know, it's this well written, things like that. So this is a really cool supplement that's a nice little breath of fresh air in terms of OSR supplements. And
there are a number of things on Drive-Thru-RPG, there are things on Dragon's Foot that are very creative. And we're not saying that there isn't, but in terms of a professional publication that, I think this was $35, and it is 100 and some pages long. 245 pages long. 245 pages of D&D goodness, or fantasy role-playing goodness, for $35. This is a heck of a deal.
It's a heck of a purchase.
It is really good.
It looks nice. It's the perfect size. It does. Can just, for those of you who just like to have things on the shelves, because we like to just have things on the shelves sometimes, look at the spine on that. Just slots right in there.
And for those of you who are just listening to the podcast, sorry, but it really looks cool. Just look up Into the Wyrd and Wild, and you'll be able to see what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to mention it.
Absolutely. No, it's something that we are quite big fans of. And unfortunately, it's looking like that might be all the time we've got here. It's a little bit shorter of one today, but we're coming up on about half an hour.
Wizard spell.
Wizard spell? You want to do that real quick?
Let's do a wizard spell.
Okay.
I'm going to do a random wizard spell out of Volume 3 of the Wizard's Spell Compendium from the second edition book of same name-ish thing. I don't know. I'm trying to be all fancy and it's not working. Nope. You're supposed to agree with me. She said, no, it's okay.
No, you're so fancy, Father.
There we go. Yeah. Again, I'm looking for a new co-host. Don't tell Alexander.
You can't.
Volume 3, Wizard's Spell Compendium. I'm going to flip this bad boy open. And we're going to go with this spell right here. This is... Number exciting, but I'm going to read it anyway.
No, yeah, it's random. So
I've got to do it.
Make the bed, lay in it.
Well, I put my finger down between protection from poison, red wizard, and protection from possession. I think I'm going to go with protection from...
Possession. That's more interesting.
Protection from possession, 10-foot radius. 4th level spell. Saving throw, none. 10-foot radius around creature touched. This spell generates a globe of protection that protects all creatures within its confines from possession by magical spell and spell-like attacks, such as Magic Jar for 2 rounds per caster level. The sphere has no effect on established conditions except at the highest levels. The globe is centered on and mobile with the creature touched. Otherwise, the degree of protection depends on the caster's level. It does a lot of other stuff. If the saving throw... You know what? I'm not going to do this one.
Are we going to find another one?
I'm going to find another one because this is very complicated and we're pressed for time.
Okay.
So I'm going to do another random spell. Okay, here we are. Oh, okay, this sounds kind of cool. This is the Sands of Time spell, 7th level.
Here we go.
Saving throw negates it. With this spell, a wizard can reverse the effects of aging and erosion on any non-living material object. The degree of aging that can be reversed depends upon the level of the caster. The table, there's a table down below, also shows the average effects of time and the elements on various materials. Papyrus and wooden objects fade over time, making it difficult but not impossible to read or identify surface features. Fragile objects must survive an item's saving throw versus fall each time they are used, etc., etc. But with this spell, you can, depending on your level, you can reverse time on any one of these objects from any time from 30 days. If you're a 30th level wizard, which we do not have in my campaign,
No.
but according to this, if you had a 30th level wizard, you could reverse time 5 million years and bring things back to where you could use them. So, for example...
That is pretty cool.
An 18th level wizard could, for example, turn even a pile of dust back into the new, clean piece of papyrus it once was, turn the crumbled remains of a staff back to its original form, or even restore a painted map on the wall of a temple constructed of soft stone. This spell cannot restore damage done to an object by anything other than natural aging or erosion. For example, it could not recover a wand whose final charge was expended. Use the table as a guide for other objects that don't exactly fit into these categories. But
I like that quite
I like
a bit. That could be very useful, especially with books and whatnot, because there have been quite a few instances in playing role-playing games with you where paper is just too old and it falls apart.
It crumbles.
Yeah. So I think that could be that's a neat spell. I like that a lot.
So anyway, yeah, just another little bit of D&D fun for you.
Yeah.
But that's all we've got, really, for this podcast.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by for episode insert number here. Look below at the title. We appreciate you guys coming by, and we appreciate your support. Be sure to check out our Patreon. Be sure to check out our website. Be sure to check out our Instagram. Be sure to check out our Spreadshirt. Is that it?
I think that's it.
Check out our YouTube if you're not there already. And
there you go. And remember, Into the Wyrd and Wild, I highly recommend you look into it just to see if it's something you would want to pick up. Into the Wyrd, W-Y-R-D, and Wild,
yes.
W-I-L-D.
And keep your eyes open for a video, possibly, about that in some more depth here at some point, because we really like it.
Yep.
So yeah.
That's it. I've got nothing else at this point.
I am Alexander.
I'm Jim.
Keep your sword arms free.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you in the bonus.